Hey, what's up, fight fans? Today we're going to be discussing this Saturday's UFC 269 pay-per-view main event, Charles Oliveira, Dustin the Diamond Poirier for the lightweight title. Co-main event, we got Amanda Nunez going against Juliana Pena. Also in the main card, we got Sugar O'Malley going against Julian Paiva. I think that's how you say it. Julian, I don't really know how they say it. Also, we got Cajochara France going against Cody Garbrandt in his flyweight debut. That's going to be really interesting. I'm really excited to talk about that one. And Jeff Neal going against Santiago Ponzinio in the welterweight division. I mean, all these fights are just really fucking exciting. Huge implications on every single one of them. So let's get started. Starting from the top, we got Charles Oliveira going against Dustin the Diamond Poirier. So Charles is coming off of his title-winning showdown against Michael Chandler. And that was really, really, really crazy because a big thing that has always been said about Charles Oliveira is that he gives up. That when the going gets tough, he pretty much just shells up and that's pretty much over. And he seemed to rewrite his wrongs, in a sense, in the last 4 years during his 9-fight winning streak. I mean, it was not looking good for him early on in that fight against Michael Chandler. I mean, he got Chandler's back, and Chandler did some crazy, reckless shit in that fight, but then he really started to take over, and it seemed like everything that he was touching Charles with was really hurting him. And then literally the second round starts, and Charles turns that completely around and just throws that left hook and just right on the fucking money, puts Michael Chandler right on his ass, follows it up with the kill, smelt blood, and just, I mean, pretty much put Chandler out cold. I mean, it was very fucking decisive, and one of the better comebacks I've seen in a long time. And especially, it showed that Charles Oliveira has learned to bite down on his mouthpiece when the going gets tough and get the job done. With that being said, he's going against Dustin Poirier, who is coming off of a 3-fight win streak since losing his first title shot against Khabib. But these 3 wins, a decision win against Dan Hooker, and 2 KO victories over Conor McGregor. So that being said, this is going to be Charles Oliveira's toughest test to date. I think it's really cool that you have 2 former featherweights ending up in the lightweight division facing off for the belt. I think that's very cool. A lot of people are writing Charles Oliveira off, which is very strange. I do have Dustin Poirier winning this fight. Don't get me wrong, I'm saying that right now. But for the most part, I think that Charles Oliveira, I think he's going to lack strength. I think he's going to lack the striking ability. And I think Dustin Poirier's jiu-jitsu on the ground is good enough to defend the submission game against Charles. And I really just don't, unless Charles really just does what he's been doing the last 4 years, he should be okay and come out with the victory. But I think Dustin Poirier right now is on a completely different level confidence-wise. He's a completely different fighter than what he used to be as well. But, I think he beats Anthony Pettis again. I mean, Anthony Pettis beat Charles Oliveira. I mean, I think Dustin Poirier beat the guys that beat Charles Oliveira. And now I know MMA math doesn't work, but sometimes it really fucking does work. And sometimes there really are levels to this. And the things that Charles Oliveira has done has been impressive, but they haven't all been against A-plus guys. It was against an older Tony Ferguson who was broken against Justin Gaethje. Michael Chandler, who, I mean, I guess you can say is not the smartest fighter out there when it comes to IQ level. I mean, he's very good and very athletic, very powerful, and has all the tools to get there, but when it comes down to it, he's over reckless and leaves himself open to getting knocked the fuck out. So that being said, the competition level that Charles Oliveira has gone through versus Dustin Poirier during Dustin Poirier's run as well, I mean, his only real loss is to Khabib, the greatest of all time. So, I got Dustin Poirier winning second round. I say submission. I think that he's going to fuck him up on the feet. I think it's going to go to the ground, and a lot of people say, a lot of black belts turn into white belts when they get punched in the face. So we'll see how it all plays out, and I got Dustin Poirier second round submission, at least second round finish, In the co-main event, we got Amanda Nunez going against Juliana Pena. Shout out to Juliana for being out of Chicago. That's where I'm from. That's my hometown. So that's pretty cool. But I really don't see her getting past Amanda. You know, I think Amanda is just on another fucking level. She is just the greatest female combat sports athlete of all time. And I think that currently she is the baddest woman on the planet. And nobody's even close to her. Juliana can pull some shit out of her ass. I mean, Jermaine Durandamine kind of put a little bit of fucking shock into our hearts when, I mean, it really looked like Amanda was gassing out really bad in that fight. That was the only time I've seen her look human. I mean, Amanda hasn't lost since 2014. Think about that. So it's really interesting to think about this happening, but because she can be beaten. You know, I mean, Cat beat her. Jermaine looked like she was going to fuck her up, but then out of nowhere, she had no takedown defense or a ground game. Just completely disappeared. Amanda just took her down and just stayed there for fucking 25 minutes. Hey, but all power to her. I really just don't see this getting out of the first round, you know, unless Juliana plays it safe, goes for takedowns. You know, she is a very, very, very good wrestler. So maybe she can try and get it to the ground and hold Amanda down. Maybe get it to the fence, wear her down, make her wear her weight. That's probably her best bet. And I really just don't think she's going to be successful. I think Amanda's too big. I think she's too strong. I think she's too fast. She's a lioness, you know, and she is for a reason, you know, and everybody has counted Amanda out over the years, and I think they need to stop fucking doing that and give that woman the respect that she deserves, because she is one bad bitch. And it's really cool seeing her and Nina and the baby all the time, and she just seems so fucking happy. But my dad is in love with her. It's fucking hilarious. And I mean, she is just an infectious personality. She's a superstar who doesn't get the superstar respect that she deserves, and it's really unfortunate. I got her first round stoppage on this Saturday. After that, we got Jeff Neal, Santiago Ponzinio, welterweight division. Jeff Neal, who's 31, 13-4, is coming off some losses, you know, to Wonder Boy. Sorry for the brain fart. And recently got arrested. I think it was after Thanksgiving. Looks like he got a little turned up with the family and decided to drive home a little late. Kind of sucks, you know, shows that maybe he's not a little focused. He didn't look so good in his mugshot. And Santiago, who seems to finally have his groove back after being out for a couple of years. I mean, Santiago Ponzinibio is a bad motherfucker, and people don't give him the respect either. But it's because he's been so absent. You know what I mean? He looked really good knocking out Gunnar Nelson, taking out Mike Perry. He knocked out a fucking Neil Magny. That's who it was, Neil Magny in a main event. And then he was kind of out for like 2 years. He kind of disappeared. And he made his comeback against Li Jingliang. And he kind of just, he looked out of shape. He looked rusty. He didn't look ready. And he got clipped. And he paid for it with a TKO loss. But in his comeback, he's coming off a very, 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 very solid decision win against Miguel Baeza, which is a potential fight of the year. I mean, he was getting pieced up in the first round and then just really adjusted to everything that Miguel was doing and won rounds 2 and 3 by the skin of his teeth and just really turned it around. And just, it was a very fantastic performance in the vintage Ponzinibio performance. And it was very exciting to see him come back. And I love this fight with him and Jeff Neal. You know, I think Ponzinibio was like 26-3 or 26-4 in his career. He's getting up there in age. I think he's about 35 years old. But it's a very exciting matchup. Jeff Neal's a very big, very strong, powerful guy, but he's had kidney issues. We don't know if he's going to make weight. There's a lot of question marks when it comes to Jeff Neal. And I think Santiago, usually when he makes it this far, he doesn't pull out. He usually pulls out sooner if he's hurt. So I think that's a good sign. So it seems like he's healthy. You know, I think I'm gonna go Santiago by decision in this fight. You know, I don't really think he's gonna finish Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal's a tough son of a bitch. I mean, he's one of the few guys to knock out Mike Perry. You know, I think he might be the only guy to knock out Mike Perry in the UFC. So that's really exciting to see. I think Ponzinibio is really only 2 wins away from fighting Usman, and that's really cool. He's a very big guy. I think he could stop Usman's takedowns. So we'll see, you know, and with a really good performance, he really is only 2 wins away from a title shot. And fuck, we need a new contender up there because Usman is just running through everybody in that welterweight division. I mean, he's beaten everybody, at least the top contenders twice now. So it's like you got to get some fresh meat up there, you know. Next up, we got Cajochara France introducing Cody Garbrandt to the flyweight division for his flyweight debut. Cajochara France is no joke either. A lot of power, squirrely little motherfucker, heart for days. You know, doesn't have the best technique. May not be the best guy in the division, but fuck, he can beat you any day. Like, he's one of those guys who can beat the best guy in any day, but odds are he might not win. Like the Rogerio Bontorin fight that he won, like he was getting his ass kicked and he was getting dominated. But the second he got on the feet, it was very evident at the skill differential when it came to being on the feet and on the ground. On the ground, Rogerio was definitely, with him being a black belt champion in jiu-jitsu, it showed the difference. But then Cajochara France really took advantage of it and put him on his fucking ass. I mean, face down, ass up type knockout. I mean, that shit was very impressive. While I watched that live, that shit had me screaming at my TV. You know, so it's very exciting to see him come back and to introduce Cody Garbrandt to the division. And for a while now, I've been thinking too, why the fuck doesn't he go down? He was already looked like he was kind of a small guy for bantamweight. I mean, especially against Rob Font. I mean, when he was going against Rob Font, it looked like he was just going against a guy who was almost 2 weight classes bigger than him. Rob Font almost looked like a lightweight in there. It was crazy. He was getting pieced up. So it was really cool to see him come back at this division, but we'll see what the weight cut does to him. It affects guys differently. We saw what it did to TJ Dillashaw. But Cody did look good in pictures that they posted recently on Twitter. So it's very interesting to see. You know, I hate to bet against either guy because I think Cajochara France is a very exciting fighter. To me, he's like the Cody Garbrandt of the flyweight division. But I think I'm going to go with Cody. I think that I think this is the right division for him. I think that he's really looking to knock off Kai's head. When it comes to the upper echelon of fighters, Kai seems to be over-aggressive and leave himself open to getting clipped with shots. And I think that's what's going to happen here again. I think he's going to try and make a statement, and I think he's going to pay for it. I think Cody's going to be ready for that. But who knows? Because Cody has the same penchant for the same problem. I'm going to go with Cody. Decision. Sorry, I'm going with the safe one. Sue me. So to start the main card, we got Julian Paiva. I honestly don't know how to say his name. Sorry, bro. Is making his bantamweight debut. I'm pretty sure it's his bantamweight debut against Sugar Sean O'Malley. Very exciting fight. Mentally undefeated Sugar Sean O'Malley. It's very exciting to see what he's going to do in this fight. He's on a 2-fight win streak, if I'm not mistaken. Since his TKO loss to Chito Vera. He's looked good in all of his fights. You know, his only issue is that he seems to be injury prone with his feet. He is a skinny guy, he is a bony guy, so that does, you know, in theory it makes sense that he might be prone to breaks. Sorry about that, Siri totally fucked my shit up. So it really seems like he was prone to breaks, and it, you know, like it makes sense. But he's fighting a guy who's similar to him and is usually fighting at a smaller weight class. Sean is doing a very, very, very smart thing that not a lot of prospects do. He is picking his fights smartly. He's building his brand. He's not getting paid superstar money yet. So why fight superstar guys and then you get knocked out and then you ain't doing shit for the rest of your career? Smart move, dude. Do what you're doing. Keep doing it all. Get a couple more fights, but you know, I mean, you're not ranked. Get in the experience and get in the money, get in the notoriety, and you're gonna be just fine, bro. It seems like you're already making a shitload of money. Just don't underestimate these guys. That is my only advice to you, dude. I'm gonna be posting this. I hope you see this, Sean. Don't overestimate this dude. He is a good fighter, even though I do think he lost that fight against Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips was no joke, and that was a very close fight. I think Sean is going to get a TKO win in this fight. I think it's going to be a second-round TKO win. If not, I think it might even be an earlier win. Sean is just so sharp. He's so strong. He's got the moves. He has that intimidation factor. People don't know what he's going to do. You don't know what he's going to do. It almost seems like he doesn't know what he's going to do. He just goes with the flow. He goes with everything. He feels the fight. He usually picks his opponents apart. You know, that Chris Boutenhoe fight, that should have been stopped way earlier. That poor dude was getting his ass beat. Almost seemed like he was getting paid to get his ass beat out there. It's really exciting to see. You know, I guess I'm going to say first round TKO win by Sean O'Malley. Moving on to the prelims. Josh Emmett and Dan Ige in the main event. The poor man's main event for this event in the featherweight division. Josh Emmett, 36 years old. I think he's 16-2. Very impressive record. You know, his only losses, I mean, off the top of my head, I can tell you that it was Jeremy Stephens. I don't know the other loss that he had, but they were both in the UFC. And all of his other wins, I mean, he's got knockout wins over Mirsad Bektic. He's got knockout wins over Michael Johnson. Ricardo Lamas. Shout out to Ricardo Lamas, Chicago dude. I mean, the dude is just a savage, do-or-die guy, go out in the shield type fighter. Going against Dan Ige, who is a very similar style fighter. 6 years younger, 30 years old. I think he's 14-4. He's coming off a loss to the Korean Zombie, where he kind of got dominated in that fight. He was just outclassed from beginning to end. He does have wins against Edson Barbosa, 12-second knockout against Gavin Tucker. Who else beat him? Calvin Kattar beat him. So Dan Ige, when it comes to the upper echelon of strikers, he seems to struggle. But he has that pace, he has that style, he has that unpredictability. He can win at any given time. Danny Ige is no fucking joke. And people have seemed to write him off since the Korean Zombie loss. I haven't whatsoever. And him against Josh Emmett, I think he can, as long as he just stays away from Josh Emmett's power, I really think that he should be able to take this fight. Josh Emmett, very good. You know, it seemed like he wasn't going to fight again after that really nasty loss to Jeremy Stephens. So it's really nice to see him come back in a very strong way in a 3-fight winning streak. This is a very interesting fight. I love this fight. If this fight goes the distance, I got it on Dan Ige. If there's going to be a stoppage, I got it on Josh Emmett. That's pretty much my prediction. You know, I almost can't even go with what guy, but I can tell you if it's going to be one outcome or the other. If it's a decision, Dan Ige's, I think it's going to be Dan Ige. If there's a finish, I think it's going to be by Josh Emmett. Yeah. Next, we got Dominic Cruz against Pedro Munoz in the bantamweight division. Very strange that they're on the prelims. It's almost like the UFC is like punishing Dominic Cruz for turning down Sean O'Malley for whatever reasons. Because I'm pretty sure they offered him that fight, and he said that he didn't want to take that fight, and he wanted to fight people that were up in his thing and this and that. The UFC is probably punishing him by putting him on the prelims for him talking shit about the young fighters not being on the prelims. Dominic Cruz, who's now 36 years old, going against Pedro Munoz, who's also 36 years old. Very interesting. Cruz hasn't been very active, you know, in the last 4 years since he lost his title to Cody. He had that knockout loss to Henry Cejudo. And then he is coming off a win against Casey Kenny, where he looked really, really, really good against Casey Kenny. There was a lot of question marks there, because he kind of looked a little old. He looked a little, not old, but older, and he looked a little slower, because he is, against Henry Cejudo. It just shows how good Cejudo is, I suppose. But when he came back against Casey Kenny, he looked ready. His head movement was phenomenal. His footwork was typical Dominic-esque footwork, and he looked really, really sharp, really, really good. It was very exciting to watch. This fight also excites me. Pedro Munoz, who hasn't really looked himself. I mean, he's coming off against a loss to Jose Aldo, which, I mean, you know, you can't really give him any shit for that, you know. But he also had a loss against, why am I blanking? Well, it really seemed like he peaked after that Cody Garbrandt fight. Pedro Munoz, who's now 36, he lost to Aljamain Sterling. After his loss to Aljamain Sterling, he really never looked the same. He had that win against Jimmy Rivera. I mean, and Frankie Edgar, that's who it was. So his losses to Frankie Edgar, Aljamain Sterling, and Jose Aldo really seemed to stop the hype train of Pedro Munoz, right? And because everybody was talking about him. He was a talk of the bantamweight division when he knocked out Cody Garbrandt. But at the same time, a lot of people were saying that Cody Garbrandt wasn't the Cody Garbrandt of old, so that's kind of why his win was somewhat criticized. And I mean, it kind of shows. I mean, when they put him against those A+ fighters in the bantamweight division, he ended up as number 2. So this is a very interesting matchup. This is, just for Dominic Cruz to prove he's still there, and same for Pedro Munoz. The loser of this fight, I mean, you could almost say retires. I don't think Dominic Cruz is going to retire. I think that guy's going to keep pushing himself. They're going to have to force that guy to retire. That dude is so competitive. I got Dominic Cruz winning this fight. I think his experience, his competitiveness, just his savviness and his experience, I think he's going to pull this out over Pedro Munoz. I think Pedro Munoz is going to go out over aggressive, and I think he's going to pay. And I think Dominic Cruz is going to edge out a really nice decision win. And I think it's going to be a really cool prelim fight. Fans, I think it's going to be a real treat for the fans as a free fight. So I'm really excited for this as well. After that, you have the Augusto Sakai and Tai Tuwabasa in the heavyweight division. Sakai, he's coming off of 2 losses in a row. TKO losses to Alistair Overeem and Jairzinho Rosenstruck. So we're no slouches, But it just kind of goes to show when it comes to him fighting the upper echelon of strikers, he's going to kind of end up on the B side. And he's going against Tai Tuwabasa. When it comes to anybody who wants to stand and bang with Tai Tuwabasa, they're probably going to end up on their face. The only time that Tai has gotten outclassed is usually people who have taken him down. He had a 3-fight losing streak to Sergey Spivak. I think like Andrei Arlovsky, and Junior Dos Santos knocked him out. Junior knocked him out. Junior superior boxing proved superior to his street fighting style. And Sergey Spivak was like, oh, you're striking? Here, hold my beer. Let me show you fucking wrestling. And Sergey Spivak beat the shit out of him. Tai was pretty much released after that, and then they brought him back to fight Stefan Struve, and he knocked him out, I think, by the end of the round and sent him back to retirement. And he beat Harry Hunsucker, a very dominating TKO win, and then that Greg Hardy win, which was probably the most satisfying thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Greg, what you've done post-bullshit has been nice. And you have gone out there and put yourself out there for the world to see you get knocked out. And you've done very well for yourself, and you've become a good pro in the heavyweight division. So props to you on that. But yes, it was very fucking satisfying to see Tai knock you out. Sorry, man. But Tai, that was very impressive. He rocked you a little bit, and you're like, oh yeah, let's fucking go. And you just put him out, and that was, literally had me, my girl, and my dad just screaming at the fucking TV. It was pretty great. And again, I think Tai Tuwabasa is going to pull this off. It's hard to bet against that guy. He's one of my favorite heavyweights. I can't wait to see him do a shoey. It's going to be fucking awesome. I got Tai Tuwabasa first round TKO. I think he's going to be very aggressive. And I think he's going to get Augusto just right on the chin. Yeah, I got that one. Tai Tuwabasa first round TKO. Next we got Jordan Wright going against Bruno Silva. What to say about Jordan Wright? He's very aggressive, very technical karate style fighter. 12-1, I think, but he really is 12-2. He had a TKO loss, a bad TKO loss to Fluffy Hernandez, but Fluffy tested positive for weed, so that got overturned. So I'd say he's still 12-2. He also got knocked out. Who's that fucking guy? Joaquin Buckley knocked him out, and Jordan Wright's kind of a do-or-die guy. He calls himself the Beverly Hills Ninja, which is pretty cool. That's a pretty cool nickname. I love his Instagram. He seems like a very humble dude. It's very exciting to see what he does. Going against a guy, Bruno Silva, who is on, I think, a 6-fight win streak, coming off of third-round TKO win of Andrew Sanchez. Looking really good. The guy's looking like a badass Brazilian. And he's a scary guy. And this is a really cool matchup for me. Sorry, guys. Fucking Siri's a bitch. So, continuing on. I think I'm going to have Jordan Wright. I think I'm going to have with a first-round TKO win. I think I'm going to have Jordan Wright on this one. Going next, we got Andre Munice versus Eric Anders. Munice is coming off of that submission win against Jacare. A very impressive submission win against Jacare where he broke his arm. That was fucking nasty. It's really exciting to see him fighting against Eric Anders, who's very tough. And that's really the most I can say about Eric. He's not a great fighter, but he's a good fighter. He's not going to go out there and get these crazy knockout wins. He might, but odds are he's going to grind out these decision wins or these decision losses. That's kind of how he is. just like that 500 middleweight fighter. And, you know, early on when he had his fight against Lyoto Machida, he had a lot of hype behind him being a former Alabama, I want to say linebacker. I know he did win the BCS championship back in the day, back when Mark Ingram was the running back. That was a great. I think I watched that game when I was in high school. What to say about that fight? I think Andre is going to take it to the ground, and I think he's going to submit Eric. Sorry, Eric. I think you are a good fighter, but I just think that there's levels to this, and I think Andre, he's going to get the very quick and decisive submission win. Moving on down to the prelims. Further down the prelims, we got Aaron Blanchfield against Miranda Maverick. I do not know anything about Aaron Blanchfield. Couldn't find much information, but I've seen plenty of Miranda's fights. Very tough fighter. She loves to grind it out, loves to put on the pressure. Definitely not a pretty fighter anytime she goes out there. I thought that she won that fight against Macy Barber. I think that was some bullshit. And I think Miranda's going to keep proving that she is that good of a fighter. And I got Miranda on this win. No matter who Aaron Blanchfield is, I got Miranda on the win for this fight. Next, we got Alex Perez going against Matt Schnell in the flyweight division. Alex Perez hasn't fought since his submission loss to Deiveson Figueiredo for the flyweight title last year. So that's really exciting to see. You know, he's taken a lot of time off. And they're bringing him against a guy like Matt Schnell, who I really don't know much about. I think he's got a win against Tyson Nam. He might be coming off a loss. I'm not totally sure much about Matt Schnell. I know he's like 31, 32. But this is a very interesting matchup. I can't really pick a winner. All I know is Alex Perez is a good fighter, and he's coming off a loss in his last fight was for the title. So I guess I'll go for him. Next, we got Ryan Hall going against Derek Minay. Ryan Hall coming off of his TKO loss to Ilia Topuria. Ryan Hall, what can you say? BJJ wizard for a long time, for years. I mean, people have just avoided to fucking fight this guy. I mean, just so scary. His knee locks, his ankle locks, his knee bars, his heel hooks. I mean, just fucking dangerous. He fucks dudes up, and his Imanari rolls, what he did to BJ Penn, what he did to Darren Elkins, made it look easy. And then Ilia Topuria is like, hold my beer. But to his defense, Ryan Hall did a lot of weird shit in that fight. That was hands down one of the weirdest fights I've ever seen. And yes, he did say he broke his hand early on, but it's like, you have a plan C? When the Imanari roll doesn't work, it's probably not going to work the second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth time. So, I mean, you might as well go to a plan C. I don't know. His hand was broken, though, so he was probably like, fuck. I don't know what to do. I guess I'm going to go for his leg. I don't know. It was pretty sad to see. It was like, fuck, he just got knocked out. Going against Derek Minay, who, coming off his submission loss, I think it was submission or TKO loss to Darren Elkins, where it was like early on, he took Elkins down, was beating the shit out of him, but Darren Elkins did what he does best, and he put the damage on the motherfucker. He wore him down, he put him out, and that was pretty much it. It was a fantastic fucking fight. So now Derek is going out to prove that he still has it against a guy who's also out to try to prove that he still has it. I think both guys are 36. No, Ryan Hall's 36, Derek's 31. But I think Derek, you know, he's a solid vet. I think he's 26-12. He's got a lot of fights. He's a grappler. But I think Ryan Hall's just another level. I think Ryan Hall's going to do what he does best. I think he's going to get it to the ground. I think he's going to submit Derek. I think it's going to be a first round. I'm going to give it 90 seconds for Ryan Hall. Next, we got Randy Costa going against Tony Kelly. I know nothing about Tony Kelly, but I have seen some of Randy Costa's fights. Very exciting, young prospect. Looked very good against Adrian Yanez early on in his last fight, but it seemed like either UFC jitters or something got to him because he just zapped out like that. It was kind of crazy to see. You see a guy, I mean, he was stunning Adrian with everything he had, and out of nowhere, just all of his energy left his body. Adrian just fucking touched him up, and that was pretty much that very quickly. And it's very exciting to see him come back against a guy like Tony Kelly, who's also kind of in like the same thing. I don't know much about him, so I can't really say much. So I'm going to go at Randy Costa, first round knockout. I follow the guy. I'm a fan. And then to start the entire card, we got Chilean Robertson versus Priscilla Cajochara. Chilean's coming off of 2 losses. You got Priscilla coming off of 2 wins. Jillian, who has been very active doing a lot of jiu-jitsu, combat jiu-jitsu, flow combat, stuff like that. She's very exciting. This is basically loser gets cut. Priscilla, they've been putting her against the bottom barrel fighters after she came into the UFC with a hot streak, and then Valentina fucked her up, and then she just looked very mediocre. So now that they kind of switched everything up. So I think Jillian, with her back to the wall, I think she's going to take this with a TKO win in the second round. Thank you guys. My name is Mr. Mustache. I hope you enjoyed my breakdown. Please like and subscribe if you like my content. More is to come to the takeover, guys. Thank you, fight fans. Let's go. UFC 269.